Today I'm going to show you those eBay cheat codes and how to get that clutch last model ready for your army so you can take it to that tournament this weekend. Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days on this glorious Friday morning in the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California. I'm going to show you another eBay hack. If you're like me, that means you like tournaments. That means you like to compete, you like to win games. Bringing hobby back isn't just about painting or building models, it's also about playing models. We are trying to bring hobby scores back to Warhammer 40k. That is the overall message. Every part of the hobby should be honored, including playing. And I love tournaments. They're one of my favorite things to do. I get to go meet new people, play my idea of a competitive army against all their ideas. You know, shake hands, have some drinks, win some games, hopefully. And even if you lose some games, at least you had some amazing, memories and made some new friends. That's what I like to do. And a lot of things happen in my life to stop me from getting that clutch last model ready in time, especially with everything I do. And this is the same story for everyone. Everyone's busy with their work, their job, and they're like, damn, I really want to play that new formation, but I don't got the models. I haven't even ordered the models, let alone built the models and painted the models. So this is in line with the eBay hacks. I play Chaos Space Marines all day, every day. Cyclopia Cabal is the new formation. When I say the only fucking formation for Chaos Space Marines that's any good. It's the Black Legion supplements. These are Black Legion sorcerers that can be, put in a squad. They have a cool psychic power, but mainly it's a way to get extra sorcerers in your list because Chaos Sorcerers are one of the only, if not the only HQ that are good. With the advent of 6th edition showing the new psychic powers, the way we do psychics, and in 7th edition, the only thing that really got a major buff in the Chaos Codex was how Chaos Sorcerers interact with the game. I always run 2, since 6th edition, and I've always like, man, I really wish I can get a 3rd one in there, but you can't ally with the primary faction if it's a CAD. There's no formations for Chaos. It's literally, I gotta do 2 CADs, but I don't want the extra investment in troops. Like literally there's never been an option. And now I have one. So I got a tournament coming up soon. My first tournament in California. And I don't have the time to be, ordering up Chaos models and building them and painting them. So a long time ago, I came up with this technique where I look on eBay for models that are close to what I want in paint job. Like based colors. I look for the quote unquote pro painted eBay models. And if they have a good enough paint job with solid blocked in colors, I'll buy them and I'll do my magic with them. 30 minutes of laying paint down and I got a model ready to go for my tournament army. That's the tabletop stuff, And I will obviously take it to what I call a tabletop standard, which many people don't agree with me what I call a tabletop standard. They say that's not a tabletop standard. They say spray paint and some metal trim is tabletop. That's not how we roll Next Level Painting. Even our tabletop is next level. You guys saw last week's Bloodthirster video. I've even done another Bloodthirster since then. Cornered the market on out-of-print Bloodthirsters that have these basic paint jobs that I bring to tabletop, and I'm doing it with another sorcerer. And I've always had this theme in my army where I use sorcerers on demonic steeds, on bikes, right? But I always take horses, so I always use the old fantasy models, find like a cool sorcerer from Chaos and Fantasy with a horse, and that's my sorcerer on a bike. Love it, and I convert them to have axes because I like the force axe option. And so I've got 2 in my army already, I needed a 3rd for the Cabal. And so I picked up an old out-of-print Fantasy Lord with an axe on a horse. And he's already painted Black Legion. Like he's black and he has gold trim and everything. So today I'm going to show you how to take a model like that, open up the box, rebase them, and within 30, 40 minutes, and in 30, 40 minutes is because the washes take longer to dry than anything. You can have a model that you can bring out to the store and people will be like, hey, your army looks great. So we're going to hack that again today. Before we go any further, quick shout out to my patrons. I want to shout out Alex, Anthony, Robert, Thomas, Joe, and Weebleflies. Thanks, guys. Their support on Patreon is making a difference. For you guys who don't know, Patreon is my personal crowdfunding page. It's a way for you to contribute to an artist that you happen to like their artwork or their tutorials, and help them out with a little walking around money so they can pay the bills, keep the lights on, so they can keep doing what they do. Because in this day and age, you have to be a businessman too if you want to be an artist. and that is not conducive to producing art. So things like Patreon really help artists keep doing what they do. Big things. Also, I'm live on Twitch now. If you haven't checked out Twitch, you got to. It's basically our own TV show here at Next Level Painting. We broadcast twice a week. We do Tuesdays, Saturdays. That's Tuesday. That's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We also do a Saturday stream, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. You're gonna want to check this out. It's a totally different world of interaction and community support. I have been lucky enough to go into this world and have a lot of people hold my hand through the whole process and show me what to do. So check that out. Also, thelongwar.net, fastest growing library and video content related to Warhammer 40k. You're gonna want to check that out. Let's do this thing. All right, let's do this thing. Let's take this out of print. OG Age of Sigmar / fantasy / Warham's, I want to say Chaos Lord on Demonic Steed. Let's take him from this quote unquote eBay pro painted. Let's take him to an actual tabletop standard. I'm going to grab a surface primer, brush on black surface primer from Vallejo. And I'm just going to brush it on lightly in some of these areas that are chipped up and looking weathered and beat up. Because it's an old pewter model, and old pewter models get chipped up just from usage. So we're just, everything that's black that I'm not happy with, we're going to just redo it here. His feet, his legs, the horse's legs, some of the armor panels. You know, this is not taking a long time. It took longer to film this thing than it took to paint this thing. But if you're like me and you like going to tournaments, you like staying up to date with some of the cool tech for your own codex, and you don't necessarily have enough time to get that one last model you're missing ordered, built, and painted before the next tournament, this is a great solution. And you can see now we're finding all the little black areas. We're not trying to like unpaint the gold. The gold is actually fine. It's just some of this black is not looking its best, seen better days. So we're going in everywhere. Every little piece of armor, even things that I'm not going to leave black in some situations. Like this guy who painted this model, you know, slacked a little bit. The steed is black and so is the armor. Obviously, the horse should have a different color than all the armor. And I'm pretty sure this helmet is just pewter. It looks like that helmet is pewter with some, like, maybe it was stripped once. I don't know. But we're hitting it a little bit heavier with the surface primer. Because, you know, it needs primer because it clearly, I can see actual pewter showing. So that's not going to ride, guys. So sometimes you got to, you know, patch it up a little bit. No big deal. Super easy. And as we move, you know, like we're planning out the next stage, next attack, you know. And now we're going to start building up some of the other colors. I just decided, hey, let's just go with a real quick brown horse here. Because like I said, we're taking this to the tabletop. So not doing anything crazy. Brown horse. Just grab the basic bloodstone brown, like a basic brown. Hit it all. Just go right over that primer you just laid down. There it is. Instantaneously, the model looks 10 times better because now we have more contrast. We're going to paint his hooves with a standard bone, men off white base. This is one of my go-to bone colors. And there's not a lot of detail in this model, so you can't get mad. You know, there's just like when you're painting something like this, just recognize it's shitty and old. We're going to grab some Reaper New Gold, mix it up a little bit with some Molten Bronze. And we're going to go through and just kind of patch up some of this gold trim, but also kind of give it a real quick highlight, like a real basic highlight. Now that the surface primer is dried on this helmet, give it a quick dry brush of some steel, Vallejo Air Steel over the helmet. Nothing too crazy there. And now we're going to take that same brown we use in the horse. You know, like I said, you can't overthink it. It's going to create contrast and a little bit of complement. We're going to paint these, I want to call them, I don't know, what are these? Antlers, some gangster antlers. And we're going to paint them with this brown. And while it's still really wet, we're going to rapid fire wet blend some of that bone color that we just used in the hooves. So this is cool because we're going to get a sweet little blend on these antlers. We're going to create contrast on the helmet. But simultaneously, we're using colors we already had out. Efficiency, you know, when you're talking about this type of process. Real quick wet blend. That's, you know, bringing a real wet color into a still super wet color using a lot of water. And then I'm just going to blend them back together with a quick mid-tone. And like, this is, I mean, we're being as efficient with our strokes as possible here. No back and forth. That blend will ride. Then grab that bone and then just start, lightly blending it back into the tips, and then do it one more time. Put that final little explanation point on the blend. There it is. I mean, we have barely been working on this guy and he's already a different model. This guy is 10 times better than he just once was. It's just a couple of little contrast, choices. And we're leaving as much of the model intact as we can. And there it is. One last little highlight. And now, since we still had some of that, that bone out, we're going to just dry brush some of that bone back over the tail now that it's dry, giving it a quick little highlight to work with, leaving the darker brown intact, catching the raised surfaces, because we're going to use a brown wash on all this. So it's kind of like a pre-shade. The brighter raised surfaces are going to still be brown after the wash, but they're going to be lighter brown than the darker recesses. And also I snuck in a quick paint job on that axe while you guys weren't looking. We're using a brown, no big deal. Real simple. And I mean, he's ready for a wash now. You guys know what I do. I'm gonna hit him with a quick seal coat, come back, start in with the Flesh Shade Gloss wash from G-Dubs. Paint the antlers with the Flesh Shade because I want it to be a little bit different looking than the rest of the model. And obviously this model has a slight gloss varnish on them, so it's going to help these washes flow. And so, like I said, the Flesh Shade on the antlers, and I'm also going to use it on the wood on the shaft of this axe. I feel like I'm going to get a better look here. And I've said it a million times, the GW gloss washes are amazing. Love them. Now we're going to use the Earth Shade. We haven't used this a whole lot in my arsenal. I did use it on the Bloodthirsty video, but we're going to use this to wash the horse. It's a great wash, very heavy brown, but it's still the gloss wash. So it's really going to leave these colors intact. Like I said, it's really going to interact with that little dry brush we did very well. It's going to look good on these hooves, on the fur that we just built up. We did, a light dry brush plus this wash is GG. Looks great. Different model already, like I said. These techniques, these are not the normal next level painting techniques. These are how to get your, how to get a model tabletop real fast. Especially maybe even a model you already had painted yourself years ago. And now you're like, oh man, I really want to play that model. How do I get it ready for the tournament without repainting it? Okay, anyway, real quick guys, we're using the Vallejo black wash instead of GW gloss wash. And that's because I want to use a wash with a little bit more staining power. This wash definitely has more stain power. So it's staining more of the raised surfaces than the gloss wash will, and that's what I want. I want to get a little bit more coverage with it. I want a harsher stain so it can blend some of the shitty edges of this bad sculpt and this poor thickly painted model together and maybe hide some of the mistakes. And it does a great job of that. Vallejo makes some amazing matte washes. So we're using a gloss wash and a matte wash. It's going to do wonders on that gold. It's going to do great things on that black. It's going to look great on that chainmail. Really solid wash. Vallejo doesn't make a bad product. Everything they make is amazing. And don't even worry about it interacting with the horse, muzzle up there. Just do your best. Slide it along the edges. Don't let it get all up in his grill, but it doesn't matter if a little bit does. It's going to create a little bit more of a shadow, so it's all good. And basically, we're just washing them. Pretty much washing this entire model now. We're going to wash all his armor plates, his shoulder pads, his trim, every flat surface. This is basically 100% wash. Back in the old days, they would have painted this whole model and dipped it in some, future floor wax and pigment and inks and shit, and they would have flicked it all off and would have been like, oh, dip technique. Well, this is not quite as bad as a dip technique. This is a step above that for sure, because with a wash you can control the flow and you can use different colors, the blacks and browns versus just one sepia, which is what everyone used to dip inside of. Feeling pretty good about this. It's coming out pretty good. It's not too bad. Let's just bang out the last piece of chainmail here. Get the other side of this model done. I really enjoy doing these eBay hack videos because I've been doing this for years on my own. This isn't just something I invented for a tutorial. I have all the sorcerers in my army, are mounted on demonic steeds, and they're all cherry-picked from the old Warhammer line. Back when I was only playing 2 Sorcerers, because that's all I could really play before the Cyclopia Cabal came out, I had been doing that anyway, buying reclaimed eBay models and touching them up, putting them in my army. Because, you know, I'm a hardcore tournament player and I don't always have time. You know, don't want to repeat myself, so back to the tutorial. Now we're going to slather that black wash all over that axe. We're going to do our best not to let it get built up in some of those areas you can see along the blade. So we're going to wick away the black. Slide it away. You know, just, we want to, like I said, we're using the stain power of this matte wash versus the gloss wash by GW. And we're even going to use it on the base real quick. We're just going to wash the, this is the GW textured paint we put on this base because this guy was obviously on a horrible square base. We let that dry, just do a quick wash on it, and now it's all ready to go. You know, that wash is dried up. We hit it with a little bit of a matte varnish, and he's looking about 10 times better than he looked, you know, at the beginning of this video. If you wanted to put him on the table like this, you could. But we're going to do a little bit more work. Real quick, we're going to dry brush the base super fast. We're just using the P3 matte off-white base. It's a great highlight. Since it's already in the brush, we're going to dry brush the tail again. Dry brush the wood shaft of this axe. Real light dry brushing on some of the peaks of the horse's body that are shown under that armor. Rapid fire. Go back to the same gold we used before. Do some subtle highlights on just the raised surfaces of this trim. A little bit of that Reaper new gold. Just basically tracing. Some little edge highlights. You know, some surface blends. This will help the model pop a little bit more, so it will hold up to a slight visual inspection by any tournament judge. You know, if they have a painting rubric and it says like extra edge highlighting or dry brushing. We did that, so they have to give us the points. And this is like strictly tournament talk, you know, this is not, and tournament and playing games is part of the hobby. So I bring my hobby back every way I can. Same deal, just keep that trim alive. Keep doing what you got to do. You know, and a real cool trick here we'll do here in a second is we'll add a little bit of Vallejo aluminum to the mix. And that's a great, super bright silver. We're going to add a little bit of that to the new gold. And we're going to just peek out some of these highlights we just did with a little bit of that aluminum mixed in. Give it that final pop. That thing it was missing just a second ago. So, unquestionably highlighted. Nobody could walk by the table and see this model and say it wasn't painted. He's absolutely painted. He's painted with more details than some people's armies. You know, we're obviously not changing any of the colors of this base gold. You know, we're letting all these big knobs ride. We're not going to come back in and paint them with any extra effects. That's not what this video is for. We have a normal lineup of tutorials for that. And this will probably be the last eBay hack video. I don't want to bore you guys with too many more of these. You're like, I get it. You can take any model and make it look good with some wash and some dry brush. Just wanted to make sure I drove that point home with 2 videos back to back. And here's the other side of the model, looking good. You know, feeling good about these final little highlights. Just really picking on the little points and the little raised surfaces of these arrows. And now that we have that aluminum on our brush palette, we're going to quickly dry brush it into this chainmail. A real fast, light dry brushing. That real simple. We're going to do the same thing with the axe. It really antiques that axe out. It looks super good. I love how the Vallejo black wash and the steels work with each other. We're now super fast, a little bit of German gray. Any gray will do, really. And we're just going to trace out some of the ridges on his black armor. You know, we're not going to sit here and linger, try to get the perfect little edge highlight. We just did some quick ones, all the raised surfaces. You know, here's what it looks like so far. You know, totally different model. Highlights engaged, edge highlights, dry brush technique. And now we're going to pull out a little bit of bright red. We're using some Kador red from P3. We're going to hit some of the edges on these tassels that he already had painted red. So no big deal. They got washed and now they got raised up again. And we're going to use one final highlight on the horse's face, using a little bit of that matte off-white base mixed in with the original brown. Give him some fresh looking highlights. And here we go. Here's what they look like now. and how they looked when I bought them. There's an absolute complete difference in quality here. One of these models can fit in an army and look pretty good and get you pretty decent hobby scores, and one of them looks like, you know, eBay fake pro-painted model. Anyway guys, thanks for checking out this video. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.